I miss you so much that I can't stand it. My entire being cries out for your love and your presence. My eyes miss staring into yours and witnessing the marvels of the universe in them. My hands miss touching your face and holding your hand as we walk through your creations. My ears miss hearing your voice as you speak all things into creation. I miss hearing your comforting voice when the world engulfs me in its sorrow. My skin misses sensing you near me, around me, all around me, engulfing me with your love and grace. My heart feels empty, as if something very critical, very special, has vacated the chambers. The streets of life feel isolated and acclimatized to just existing, not living. My mind feels your presence every day as you school me in your ways and grace me with the gift of wisdom and awareness of who and what you are. How you created me and loved me into existence. My feet are anxious to get going, to step into the unknown and into your arms. They want to go home. They no longer want to go in the direction of the world, in the world, towards the world, but rather be lifted off the ground and gently swayed towards your residence. I wonder if you miss me. I wonder if you remember me. I wonder what you were thinking of when you created me. What were you thinking of when you created my hair? When you took a substrate, stronger than silk, and wove each strand into every pore upon my head, so that I may have protection from the elements and wash your feet. What were you thinking when you created my skin, giving me insulation for my internal organs and live blood, to act as a barrier against the elements outside of my body, as well as the inside? To give me exceptional sensations whereby I can explore my external world and internalize the experience. A skin that can sense your presence and feel the warmth of your love shine on me from afar. What were you thinking when you created my nose, ensuring I could smell the sense of home and be reminded that I came from a place that is far beyond my understanding, but a place where the smell of you was all abound? When you created my mouth, lips, and tongue, giving me the ability to create and destroy with sound and words and screams, with to exalt you, your name and your glory, to pray to you for guidance and to sing you a song, to confess and to profess, to spread your word, your message, and to terrify when judgment so rises. What were you thinking when you created my tongue, giving me the ability to form sounds which reverberate from my vocal cords? The harp of the human body, when played right, can produce the most beautiful sound that is uniquely my own. Was it so that you hear my prayers and exaltations? Was it to give me a weapon whereby I could execute your notice and destroy mine enemies? Was it to enact your will through my testament of your word to others, giving me the opportunity to participate in your work as you save lives and change minds? What were you thinking about when you created my hands and my fingers? Was it so that I could reach out and grab and hold those near to me? Was it to fold them into an embrace in prayer? Was it so that I could point to things, point out some things, and point someone in the right direction? Was it to give me a tool whereby I could touch someone with love and compassion? Or was it so that I could shake the hand when I make business deals, get introduced to strangers, or tap them on the shoulder? Was it to create things through creative actions, or do dusty things through calculated, planned actions? Was it to wave hello or wave goodbye? Was it to hold loved ones and gently nestle children? Or was it to labor and wipe the sweat from mine brow? Was it to stroke my cat and feel his whimpering under my touch? Was it to create a nest and serve it to mine enemies? Was it to please and to service mine brothers and sisters, my fellow human being? Or was it to write letters that inspire and bring others to thought? Or was it to programmate more laws that enslaves the human race? Was it to document and notarize my world for use in education and keeping for after my life has expired? Was it to trade by exchanging one good for another, or perhaps one good for a bad, or a bad for a good? Or was it to write musical notes that compose melodies that conveys what's in my heart? Dear Father, hear them now.
Imagine a 51-year-old writer, right? And she has zero formal university education.
Yeah, none at all.
None. But she wakes up in the middle of the night with this like agonizing, purely physical urge to write down high-level physics and anatomical engineering blueprints.
Which is just wild.
Right. She claims she doesn't actually understand the math or the science herself, like at all. But these concepts just pour out of her through intense divine inspiration.
Yeah, she literally loses sleep over it.
Exactly. So welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are opening up a really fascinating stack of journal entries today, and we're focusing heavily on a text titled Dear Father, written by a South African author named Catherine Hall.
She's deeply devoted to God, devoted to the Bible.
She is, and our mission for you today is to treat this collection not just as a religious diary, but as a unified high-level engineering manual, specifically about human anatomy and conscious intent.
Which is a very, very necessary framing. I mean, if you just read the surface of Dear Father or, her companion pieces like I Have Never, it comes across as a raw, agonizing modern-day psalm.
Yeah, it's very emotional.
It is. It's this emotional cry of divine homesickness.
Yeah.
But beneath that poetry, Hall is making some incredibly intense structural claims about human biology.
And that's exactly what we want to focus on. We're going to impartially explore the hidden depths of these writings and really see how they stand up to structural analysis. Because the first major challenge presented by her text is what we can call the biological engineering paradox.
Right.
Because to figure out what the human machine is meant to actually do, we first have to understand how it's engineered to perceive its environment in the first place. Okay, let's unpack this.
So it all starts with the sensory interface. Hall opens the text with this profound sense of sensory deprivation. Like, she writes that without the presence of the divine, she feels acclimatized to just existing, not living.
Oh man, that specific phrase really caught me, acclimatized to just exist.
That heavy, right?
It really is. It implies that standard biological survival, eating, sleeping, staying out of danger is actually a state of systems failure, or like a very low power mode at best.
Exactly. And from that baseline, she systematically strips down human anatomy, almost through the lens of advanced biomimicry.
Right.
For instance, she audits hair.
Yeah.
She describes it as a substrate woven tighter than silk into every pore for protection from the elements.
Which is just standard biology, sure.
Right. But then she assigns it a completely different, higher utility.
Right.
She says it's designed to wash the feet of the divine.
Wow. And she does the same thing with the skin, doesn't she?
She does. She acknowledges it as a thermal insulation barrier for your internal organs. But within her framework, the skin's primary function is actually as a highly sensitive canvas.
A canvas engineered to internalize experiences, right?
Yeah. And crucially, to feel the warmth of divine love shining from afar.
And then there's the nose. It isn't just for smelling food or detecting a fire. She calls it a localized navigational compass.
Like, it's specifically tuned to smell the sense of home.
Right, to remind the body of its origin. But let me stop you there and push back on the science of this for a second, because I can completely understand a nose evolving to smell smoke. That's survival.
Sure.
But if we strip away standard Darwinian evolutionary theory for a minute and buy into Hall's premise, how does a physical sensor, like a literal layer of skin or an olfactory bulb, actually process a non-physical, eternal frequency?
Well, that's the absolute crux of her biological engineering paradox. I mean, in standard evolutionary theory, your senses are shaped entirely by the immediate demands of the physical
We'll have
environment.
to adapt to survive.
Exactly. But Hall is suggesting a biological body engineered specifically to interface with a higher dimensional origin. So to answer your question about how a physical sensor processes a non-physical frequency, we really need to think about transducers.
Transducers, meaning a device that converts one form of energy into another.
Correct. Consider a standard radio antenna.
Yeah.
The antenna itself is highly tangible. It's just a piece of metal on your car. But its precise physical geometry allows it to catch invisible, non-local electromagnetic waves. And then it translates them into acoustic energy that you can actually hear.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so Hall is essentially suggesting that human biological sensors operate on a very similar principle, but they're tuned to a dimensional frequency we don't conventionally map.
So under her blueprint, our biological sensors are basically quantum or higher dimensional transducers.
Yes, exactly.
Which, makes me think of a smartphone. Imagine an incredibly advanced smartphone that is constantly, desperately searching for a Wi-Fi network it inherently remembers.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
But it can no longer physically connect to it. Like, the hardware is flawless, the internal antennas are scanning, but the signal is just completely out of reach.
That analogy perfectly explains the intense grief she opens with, actually. Because if you engineer a highly sophisticated machine with sensors designed to process a high bandwidth input,
Right.
and then you completely deprive the machine of that input, the system naturally degrades. It acclimatizes to just existing.
We are surviving, but the hardware itself is starved of its intended resonant input.
The antennas are up, but the room is silent.
Wow. Okay, so if the senses, the skin, the nose, the hair are the human machine's highly tuned input receivers, that inherently begs the next question.
Right, because a perfect sensor array is useless if the organism cannot respond.
Exactly. How does this engineered machine transmit its own output back into the environment?
And that requires a completely different piece of biological technology, which leads directly to her audit of the mouth and the throat.
Yes, and in her text, The Architecture of Resonance and Vocal Alchemy, she explicitly identifies the human vocal cords as the harp of the human body.
The harp, yeah.
And she assigns the mouth and tongue this terrifying binary capability: the power to create and the power to destroy using sound, words, and screams.
She really outlines two very distinct frequencies of this bodily harp. The creative frequency is used to pray, to sing a song, to confess, and to comfort.
It brings harmony.
Yeah. But the destructive frequency is much darker. She actually frames the human voice as an executive weapon.
Which is intense.
Very. She writes about using the tongue to execute your notice and destroy mine enemies, and to terrify when judgment so arises.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because I need to challenge this, as we really need to step away from mere metaphor here.
Okay, let's do it.
Are we talking strictly metaphorically? Like, oh, you're hurting someone's feelings with mean words? Because if we follow her logic where the throat is a vibrational transducer, where sound equals words, which equals creation, she seems to be claiming a literal thermodynamic exchange.
She is.
So how does a simple acoustic wave, which is ultimately just moving air, transform into a literal force of structural destruction or manifestation?
Well, if we look closely at the architectural claims of her text, she is absolutely moving past metaphor. She's getting into the physics of resonance.
Okay, explain that for us.
Every physical structure in the universe, a glass, a concrete bridge, even a cellular membrane, has a natural resonant frequency. If you introduce an acoustic wave that perfectly matches that resonant frequency, the structure begins to absorb the energy.
Like the opera singer matching the exact pitch of a wine glass until it shatters.
That's the classic example, yeah. I mean, the singer isn't using physical blunt force, they are using acoustic alignment. They match the frequency, increase the amplitude, and the glass basically shakes itself apart from the inside.
Man, that is crazy.
Right. Now, apply that concept to Hall's framework. She is elevating the human voice into an executive weapon of spiritual and physical warfare.
So if the body is a divinely engineered machine, the vocal cords are a highly advanced acoustic transducer, capable of modulating frequency with incredible precision.
Exactly. So according to her framework, words aren't just symbolic communication, they are localized manipulations of physical space.
Yes. When she talks about the ability to create and destroy, she is describing the manipulation of what her broader work terms materia, the base matter of reality.
Because in quantum field theory, the universe is fundamentally vibrational. Therefore, sound isn't just a byproduct of moving air, It is a localized ordering or disordering of the field itself.
Which means the binary capability she mentions makes actual physical sense within this blueprint.
It does. The creative frequency singing to comfort, praying, that's about acoustic coherence. It organizes matter, lowers entropy, and brings systems into harmony.
Right. But the destructive frequency terrifying an enemy is targeted acoustic dissonance.
Yes, it's introducing a wave pattern so powerfully misaligned with the target's natural frequency that it causes structural or energetic failure.
And notice how this relies entirely on the operator. The vocal cords, the harp, are just the hardware.
They only vibrate based on the air pushed through them.
Right. The mouth, lips, and tongue shape that air. But conscious intent is what directs the entire mechanism. The machine has the capacity to manifest or shatter reality at the threshold of materia, but it completely requires a user to choose the specific resonance pattern.
It's a literal acoustic weapon system installed right in our throats, activated entirely by our intent.
I'm really starting to see how these pieces connect now. We have a high bandwidth receiver with our dimensional sensory interfaces.
Yep.
And we have a reality-altering transmitter with our vocal harp. But what actually directs the physical actions of this incredibly powerful machine?
And that brings us to the third challenge in her work, the efficiency crossroads.
Which centers entirely on her audit of the hands.
It does. And biophysically, I mean, the human hand is a marvel of engineering. The dexterity, the tactile feedback, it's a perfect mechanical tool.
It really is. Yet Hall presents this massive, inefficient contradiction in how this perfect tool can be utilized.
The text sets up a striking friction between two distinct utilities of the hands. On one side, you have high-frequency creation.
Right.
She asks if the hand was created to fold into an embrace of prayer, to touch with compassion, to gently nestle children, or to stroke a whimpering cat.
All very gentle things.
Yeah. She talks about hands writing inspired letters and composing melodies from the heart.
Actions of profound resonance and connection. But then she pivots sharply.
Really sharply.
She describes what she calls dusty, calculated, planned actions. She asks if the hands were made to make business deals with strangers, to create a nest and serve it to enemies, or to document and trade one good for another.
And most strikingly, she asks if the hands were made to programmate more laws that enslaves the human race.
Wow. It's such a harsh diagnostic of how human agency is often applied.
She's pointing out that the exact same mechanical tool can build a sanctuary or code a cage.
So what does this all mean? I look at this dualism and I just can't help but view it from a systems engineering perspective.
How so?
Well, it feels like giving an advanced AI an override switch that allows it to completely ignore its own core programming. I mean, thermodynamically and philosophically, why would a supreme architect engineer such an incredibly precise, high-fidelity machine, give it the exact blueprint of resonance, and then introduce the massive system vulnerability of free will?
Right.
Why give the machine the ability to choose to enslave itself with its own hands?
It definitely seems counterintuitive. Like, why build a flawless machine and give it the capacity for profound error? But if you examine it through the lens of resonance, that vulnerability isn't a flaw in the system. The vulnerability actually is the engine of the entire system.
Wait, really? How does that work?
Think about the nature of those high-frequency actions she listed. Compassion, composing melodies, nestling children. From a conceptual standpoint, love is the highest possible resonant frequency.
Okay.
But here is the thermodynamic reality. You cannot automate resonance.
Because if it's forced, it's just a mechanical reflex.
Exactly. If the architect had programmed the human machine to only execute high-frequency actions without any other option, it wouldn't actually be generating a frequency. It would just be a closed loop of code executing a command.
That makes total sense.
For the hardware to actually generate the immense energetic output of genuine love or inspired creation, the system must have the absolute terrifying capacity to choose the opposite.
To choose the dusty, calculated actions.
Right. If the hands cannot choose to sign a corporate contract that impoverishes people or, build a cage, then choosing to build a sanctuary has no actual energetic value.
Oh, wow.
The friction hall points out the fact that the same fingers that can comfort a child can also sign away someone's freedom is the very mechanism of free will. It's a massive system. Vulnerability, yes, but without that vulnerability, the machine cannot perform its primary function.
Which is to freely tune itself back to the frequency of its creator.
You got it.
I see where you're going with this. It's almost like a guitar string.
Okay, I like that.
If the string is clamped down by an automated system, or pulled so tight it can't move, it can't vibrate at all.
Yeah.
It needs the slack, it needs the tension, and it fundamentally needs the musician to choose where to press down on the fretboard.
That's a very apt way to visualize it.
The dusty, calculated actions are the dissonance. Free will is the musician deciding whether to play that dissonance or find the harmony.
Yeah. And the tragedy of the human condition, at least as Hall writes it, is that we so often use this high-fidelity supercomputer to just run basic, low-level accounting software. We use reality-altering hardware to make petty business deals.
We use the hands to wave goodbye instead of reaching out to hold. It's a really heavy realization when you look at your own hands after reading that.
It really frames every physical action as a choice of frequency.
It does. Man, this has been such a profound journey through what is, on the surface, just a few pages of a journal.
Really.
We started with the deep, visceral grief of sensory separation, the biological hardware starved of its signal, leaving us acclimatized to just existing.
We explore the concept of our skin and noses not just as survival tools, but as literal dimensional antennas.
And we unpacked the physics of the vocal harp, exploring the idea that the throat is a binary acoustic weapon system capable of terrifying targeted dissonance or beautiful manifestation at the threshold of matter.
And finally, we arrived at the immense responsibility held right in our own hands.
The perfect mechanical tool burdened with the terrifying vulnerability of free will, leaving us with the constant choice between dusty, calculated automation or high-frequency creation.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to be very clear here for you listening. While Hall's writings contain intense theological concepts and, potentially politically charged ideas regarding laws and societal enslavement, our purpose on this deep dive is strictly to interrogate the architectural and structural ideas within her blueprint.
Right. We aren't endorsing any specific religious or political viewpoints here.
Exactly. We just want to explore the fascinating mechanics she presents.
And as we wrap up our exploration of those mechanics, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Go for it.
If Catherine Hall's blueprint is right, and our biology is this intricate, high-fidelity interface engineered specifically to connect with a higher frequency, what happens to our anatomy when we spend our entire lives surrounded only by the dusty, calculated frequencies of modern life? If your skin, your vocal cords, and your hands are constantly bombarded by the static of systemic stress, business deals, and digital noise, does our physical hardware eventually adapt to that static? Or does it, over generations, slowly forget how to resonate altogether?
It brings us right back to the smartphone. If it spends too long looking for a Wi-Fi signal it can't find while running a dozen low-level background apps, eventually the battery just dies.
It does.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take care and watch what you choose to do with your hands today.